Welcome D-Lab everybody. On the bench I have a Gibson 20T Combo Amplifier. I've never had one of these in the shop, so let's give it an initial inspection and see what it needs. Alright, to give you a quick guided tour and then we'll power the amp up, see what's going on there. There's the front of her. Looks pretty good. Control panel. A little dirty and rusty, but still legible. What you heard there when I was turning around was the little foot switch flopping around in the back. So I've pulled the back cover already. So we can get a good look at it. It's got the original Jensen speaker installed. And I believe that's the original foot switch. Alright, let me close up so you can see what's going on inside of the chassis. Alright, let's take a look inside of this chassis. You can see somebody has been adding some filter capacitors and they're not secured, just kind of laying in there. This one here is very concerning. Little electrical tape action up here. Tubes look like they're well used, mismatched. I see a lot of dirt accumulation up here in the tube sockets. Shields are present, a little bit of rust on the speaker. All in all, she doesn't look all that bad. Alright, so the owner told me that it was recently powered up, so let's go ahead and plug it in and see what we get out of it. So I buzzed out the cable for the foot switch, and the switch does nothing, so I bypassed it with a jumper wire so we can see if the tremolo does anything. Alright, so she's powering up. Now I've got the volume on both channels all the way down. At this point, the volume's not doing anything. It's probably a loose tube. Oh yeah. Alright, after the lightning storm, moving that tube around, I'm actually getting volume now. And the noise is much less. So we obviously have some very dirty, corroded tube sockets. Remember, I bypassed the foot switch, so tremolo should be running right now. I do not hear it. So tremolo is dead. Got a lot of noise. But it looks like the amp is trying to amplify, so that's a good thing. So for the fun of it, let's check the bias on the 6V6 output tubes. This is cathode bias, so we simply have a 200 ohm resistor to ground with a cap across it. We're seeing 20.5 volts, and if you calculate that out, that comes up to a little over 100 milliamps. So if you divide that by 2, it's about 51 milliamps per tube. And that's boiling hot for 6V6s in Class AB, so we're going to have to readjust the bias. Alright, well here's a hit list for what this amplifier is going to need. Obviously, new filter caps, rebias the 6V6s. I'm sure the tubes are all baked. Got to clean the tube sockets, recap this eyelet board, and fix that tremolo circuit. Now here's the mystery, guys. I only see 2 caps. If you look at the schematic on this thing for the Gibson 20T, it shows a whole string of caps on the tremolo circuit. So where are they? And the answer to that question is they are behind the eyelet board. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a whole bunch of caps that are all hidden behind the eyelet board. So this eyelet board is not very user service friendly, is it? Because I'm going to have to remove that board to recap the tremolo circuit. Bad move, Gibson. Alright, so what the game plan is I'm going to rebuild the eyelet board. Part of that process will be bringing these capacitors to the front of the board for easier maintenance in the future. Alright, I have the caps and suspect resistors replaced. Nothing remains on the back of the eyelet board, so I'm going to reinstall and give it an initial test. Alright, I got the Gibson back together. New filter caps. I found some nice 6V6 output tubes. And the board, of course, has been recapped and reinstalled. I'm going to flip it on. I have a looper for the input. Here she comes. Remember, the tremolo was in op. Rewired that. So the Gibson is back to life. The only thing that I noticed is that there is a low-level hum. I know it's hard to hear. Alright, I resolved that low-level hum issue with the Gibson 20T. Turned out it had one too many ground points, causing a loop in that low-level hum that I was hearing. If you guys have one of these amplifiers and it has performance problems, if your tremolo's not working, the best plan of action is get all these old greasy slugs out of it, put in fresh caps, check the resistors, and she'll spring back to life. Hope you enjoyed the video.